favorite lines from the film is, "Ours is a very happy world." And I thought, yeah, it was a happy world that you created for us, so thank you for that.
Well, it ain't the real world.
Thank God for that. We get enough of that. I was wondering, I saw the screenwriter Nicholas Martin talk a couple of weeks ago, and he had apparently in the saga, he'd written lots of stuff for TV that he didn't care about ever getting a film made. And then Michael Kuhn read Florence Foster Jenkins, and then within a week, I think, or something like that, he said yes, you said yes, Meryl, you said yes. So it was like, as if by magic, there was a film to being made. I wondered, one of the things I think we all admire about you is that you never repeat yourself, and you don't stand still. You're obviously interested in characters, and whatever the genre or the style befits them, you take it on. I wondered if you could tell us, in general, what criteria you have when you're looking at a screenplay to know that it's one for you, and in particular, what about this one made you think you'd like to get out of bed every morning and do it?
It's not very difficult. So I like it. I don't quite see what there's nothing more than that. You read something and think, oh, this is great.
But you must read a lot of things that you think aren't great.
Yes. Yes, alas.
Are you seeing it in your head when you're reading it? If it's something you like?
You were saying, am I visual? No, I don't see a thing. I have nothing in my head.
Well, let's talk about the visuals. Unlike some movie with, I know you didn't have a budget of like $200 million for this, and for many reasons you were shot. It's all shot on UK locations, but you fooled me. It really felt to me like my dream 40s New York. I know you have a lot of people that you work with repeatedly. Your production designer, Alan McDonald, your cinematographer, Danny Cohen, you've worked with before, and of course the great costume designer, Consolata Boyle. You go back 25 years, all the way back to Mary Riley. When you first get together on something, how do you get everybody on the same page on how it's going to look? Do you have a lookbook? Do you give them film references or from vintage things? How do you set about finding the tone?
Well, we gossip. I mean, you imagine that it's that formal. I think a number of 40s Paramount comedies were talked about, but it's pretty obvious. They're not stupid. So I mean that process happened. Yes. I don't know. I don't quite know how the whole thing evolves. It just sort of does. A lot of grunting goes on. They're very, very clever people. They're generous people. I've worked with them a long time, so I think if I started having conversations with them, they'd be shocked.
So you don't go in saying this has to be red and that has to be, over there.
Well, the designer does that.
Was there maybe just a little bit of CGI tweaking in there?
Yes, a lot. I mean, all that. There's that incredible shot of the New York street. Don't imagine I did that. I mean, they do that. And then I look at it and think, blimey, how do you do that?
Oh dear, if you don't know, who does?
Well, the CGI guy does.
The cast is obviously a dream. It almost seems strange that after all these years that you and Meryl and Hugh Grant had not worked together before. She says she was on board with this because it was you before she even read the script.
Talks a load of bollocks.
I can see, I mean, we can just imagine the kind of work she put into this, especially as somebody who is musical, and we know she can sing. But Hugh doesn't spring to mind as an obvious pairing for her, and they're so charming together on the screen. We were talking earlier, I always think the British tend to underrate him. You obviously didn't. And he runs with the ball, but now he says, and maybe this was a load of bollocks, he said that he was intimidated and frightened by you and Meryl, and it really made him up his game. Is that...
Well, I like to keep the buggers down. Terror goes a long way. He's brilliant. He's always been brilliant. And ridiculous at the same time. He's a very, very clever actor. And he can do all that stuff. He can do all that light comedy.
Do you have a built-in rehearsal period, or do you just have the read-through and crack on with it?
I remember a read-through on this.
Meryl get up and sing during the read-through?
I think so, yeah.
I would have loved to have seen the others' faces when they heard her for the first
No,
time.
what I made her remember is the crew had never heard or came out of her mouth. So that when we shot the first time she sang, I think I'm right, the first time she sang was when she sings for the first time in the film. And the crew's faces were absolutely wonderful. So that was what she was going to sound like.
The revelation for me in the cast is little Simon Helberg, whose TV work I'd seen in The Big Bang Theory, but there must have been a very short list of actors who have that kind of comic talent, comic timing, and can also play the piano to quite a high standard, because you really wanted someone who knew what he was doing on the piano.
Well, it was a short list of one. I was told about, various people, including Alexander Desplat, said, get a pianist who can act, not the other way around. And a casting director in New York said, the person you want. She said it in the sort of voice which doesn't brook discussion. She just said, the person you want is this. And I met him, and she was right. This all sounds rather haphazard, doesn't it?
Sounds kind of delightful.
Well, that's all. I met him, and then I remember when we got nearer to the film, people started talking about the relationship between the accompanist and the singer. And I started to get nervous and thought maybe I should have gone to greater trouble. Anyway, then he went to New York, and Meryl texted me or wrote to me, and you knew that everything was going to be. I mean, they just adored each other. He was wonderful, Simon, and very, very generous. Then someone last night said he'd never played that sort of stuff before. He was a jazz pianist, so some days things work.
Some days things work very well. You recorded the singing live, I gather, rather than...
Yes. Well, we did all the work beforehand, and then you record it all, and you record what Simon is going to do. I mean, the playback was all... the accompaniment was all playback. And then she sang live, yes.
And the wonderful sequence at the end when she's gracefully dying and she hears herself singing the way she thinks she sounds, the way she dreamed of sounding, that, I gather, was not in the original script.
No, that came later.
Did that come about because Meryl wanted to remind us that she really can't sing beautifully, or it just seemed like a grace note to end it with?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because it was done as a play. I mean, Maureen Lipman did it on stage here, but it was done in a play in New York. And the woman who played the part, whose name Audrey, some famous singer did it, and she sang appallingly the whole way through. And they felt they should put in something to no, this woman really can sing wonderfully. So it really came from that, to be quite honest. Though now I'll probably be sued. No, it came later.
Let's open up and see if someone would like to make a comment or an observation.